Grace Brewster Hopper, born on December 9, 1906, died on January 1, 1992, was an American computer scientist, mathematician, and United States Navy Rear Admiral. One of the first programmers of the Harvard Mark I computer, she was a pioneer of computer programming who invented one of the first linkers. Hopper was the first to devise the theory of machine-independent programming languages, and the phlomatic programming language she created using this theory was later extended to create COBOL, an early high-level programming language still in use today. Prior to joining the Navy, Hopper earned a Ph.D. in mathematics from Yale University and was a professor of mathematics at Vassar College. Hopper attempted to enlist in the Navy during World War II but was rejected because she was 34 years old. She instead joined the Navy Reserves. Hopper began her computing career in 1944 when she worked on the Harvard Mark I team led by Howard H. Aiken. In 1949, she joined the Eckert-Mauchly Computer Corporation and was part of the team that developed the UNIVAC I computer. At Eckert-Mauchly she managed the development of one of the first COBOL compilers. She believed that a programming language based on English was possible. Her compiler converted English terms into machine code understood by computers. By 1952, Hopper had finished her program linker, originally called a compiler, which was written for the A0 system. During her wartime service, she co-authored 3 papers based on her work on the Harvard Mark I. In 1954, Eckert-Mauchly chose Hopper to lead their department for automatic programming, and she led the release of some of the first compiled languages like Phlomatic. In 1959, she participated in the Codicil Consortium, which consulted Hopper to guide them in creating a machine-independent programming language. This led to the COBOL language, which was inspired by her idea of a language being based on English words. In 1966, she retired from the Naval Reserve, but in 1967 the Navy recalled her to active duty. She retired from the Navy in 1986 and found work as a consultant for the Digital Equipment Corporation, sharing her computing experiences. The U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer USS Hopper was named for her, as was the Cray XC-6 Hopper supercomputer at NERSC. During her lifetime, Hopper was awarded 40 honorary degrees from universities across the world. A college at Yale University was renamed in her honor. In 1991, she received the National Medal of Technology. On November 22, 2016, she was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Hopper tried to enlist in the Navy early in World War II. She was rejected for a few reasons. At age 34, she was too old to enlist, and her weight-to-height ratio was too low. She was also denied on the basis that her job as a mathematician and mathematics professor at Vassar College was valuable to the war effort. During the war in 1943, Hopper obtained a leave of absence from Vassar and was sworn into the United States Navy Reserve. She was one of many women who volunteered to serve in the waves. She had to get an exemption to enlist. She was 15 pounds, 6.8 kilograms, below the Navy minimum weight of 120 pounds, 54 kilograms. She reported in December and trained at the Naval Reserve Midshipman School at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. Hopper graduated first in her class in 1944, and was assigned to the Bureau of Ships Computation Project at Harvard University as a lieutenant, junior grade. She served on the Mark I computer programming staff headed by Howard H. Aiken. Hopper and Aiken co-authored 3 papers on the Mark I, also known as the Automatic Sequence Controlled Calculator. Hopper's request to transfer to the regular Navy at the end of the war was declined due to her advanced age of 38. She continued to serve in the Navy Reserve. Hopper remained at the Harvard Computation Lab until 1949, turning down a full professorship at Vassar in favor of working as a research fellow under a Navy contract at Harvard. In the spring of 1959, computer experts from industry and government were brought together in a 2-day conference known as the Conference on Data Systems Languages, codicil. Hopper served as a technical consultant to the committee, and many of her former employees served on the short-term committee that defined the new language COBOL, an acronym for Common Business-Oriented Language. The new language extended Hopper's phlegmatic language with some ideas from the IBM equivalent, Comtran. Hopper's belief that programs should be written in a language that was close to English, rather than in machine code or in languages close to machine code, such as assembly languages, was captured in the new business language, and COBOL went on to be the most ubiquitous business language to date. Among the members of the committee that worked on COBOL was Mount Holyoke College alumna Jean E. Sammet. From 1967 to 1977, Hopper served as the director of the Navy Programming Languages Group in the Navy's Office of Information Systems Planning and was promoted to the rank of captain in 1973. She developed validation software for COBOL and its compiler as part of a COBOL standardization program for the entire Navy. In the 1970s, Hopper advocated for the Defense Department to replace large, centralized systems with networks of small, distributed computers. Any user on any computer node could access common databases located on the network. 119 She developed the implementation of standards for testing computer systems and components, most significantly for early programming languages such as Fortran and COBOL. The Navy tests for conformance to these standards led to significant convergence among the programming language dialects of the major computer vendors. In the 1980s, these tests, and their official administration, were assumed by the National Bureau of Standards, NBS, known today as the National Institute of Standards and Technology. In accordance with Navy attrition regulations, Hopper retired from the Naval Reserve with the rank of commander at age 60 at the end of 1966. She was recalled to active duty in August 1967 for a 6-month period that turned into an indefinite assignment. She again retired in 1971 but was again asked to return to active duty in 1972. She was promoted to captain in 1973 by Admiral Elmo R. Zumwalt Jr. After Republican Representative Philip Crane saw her on a March 1983 segment of 60 Minutes, he championed H.J. Rees' 341, a joint resolution originating in the House of Representatives, which led to her promotion on December 15, 1983 to Commodore by special presidential appointment by President Ronald Reagan. She remained on active duty for several years beyond mandatory retirement by special approval of Congress. Effective November 8, 1985, the rank of Commodore was renamed Rear Admiral, lower half, and Hopper became one of the Navy's few female admirals. Following a career that spanned more than 42 years, Rear Admiral Hopper took retirement from the Navy on August 14, 1986. At a celebration held in Boston on the USS Constitution to commemorate her retirement, Hopper was awarded the Defense Distinguished Service Medal, the highest non-combat decoration awarded by the Department of Defense. At the time of her retirement, she was the oldest active duty commissioned officer in the United States Navy, 79 years, 8 months and 5 days. And had her retirement ceremony aboard the oldest commissioned ship in the United States Navy, 188 years, 9 months and 23 days. Admirals William D. Leahy, Chester W. Nimitz, Hyman G. Rickover and Charles Stewart were the only other officers in the Navy's history to serve on active duty at a higher age. Leahy and Nimitz served on active duty for life due to their promotions to the rank of Fleet Admiral. Admiral Hopper was the first ever person to be profiled twice on 60 Minutes, first in March of 1983, and the second on August 24, 1986. Following her retirement from the Navy, she was hired as a senior consultant to Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC. Hopper was initially offered a position by Rita Yavinsky, but she insisted on going through the typical formal interview process. She then proposed in jest that she would be willing to accept a position which made her available on alternating Thursdays, exhibited at their Museum of Computing as a pioneer, in exchange for a generous salary and unlimited expense account. Instead, she was hired as a full-time principal corporate consulting engineer, a tech track SVP equivalent. In this position, Hopper represented the company at industry forums, serving on various industry committees, along with other obligations. She retained that position until her death at age 85 in 1992. At DEC, Hopper served primarily as a goodwill ambassador. She lectured widely about the early days of computing, her career, and on efforts that computer vendors could take to make life easier for their users. She visited most of Digital's engineering facilities, where she generally received a standing ovation at the conclusion of her remarks. Although no longer a serving officer, she always wore her Navy full-dress uniform to these lectures, contrary to U.S. Department of Defense policy. In 2016, Hopper received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, in recognition of her remarkable contributions to the field of computer science. "The most important thing I've accomplished, other than building the compiler," she said, "is training young people. They come to me, and say, 'Do you think we can do this?' I say, 'Try it.' And I back 'em up. They need that. I keep track of them as they get older, and I stir 'em up at intervals so they don't forget to take chances." On New Year's Day 1992, Hopper died in her sleep of natural causes at her home in Arlington County, Virginia. She was 85 years of age. She was interred with full military honors in Arlington National Cemetery. Thanks for watching HerStory channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe our channel.